Rockford's home for classic rocks, 96.7 The Eagle. Good morning. I'm Double T. Special guest joining me, lead singer from the Down and Outs. Well, and he has another band, too, you might have heard of, called Def Leppard. Joe Elliott. Joe, how's it going today?
Good morning. It's going great, actually. I'm in fine fettle, as we like to say over here.
Well, congratulations on the latest Down and Outs album. This is how we roll. I've been listening to it the past several days. It sounds great. It's got a really cool vibe to it.
Well, you see, that's the great thing. When people say what's the difference between Def Leppard and the Down and Outs, I always say, well, Def Leppard rocks and the Down and Outs roll. You know, we kind of got all aspects covered. But yeah, you know, I was really happy with the way that the album turned out. It was a long time in the making, and certainly a labor of love, because everybody in the band's got a day job, you know, and trying to get us all on the same page when we're not working in our motherships is a real tough task. But it was worth hanging on for, because it's such a timeless kind of record, you know, style-wise, that I knew it wouldn't really matter had it come out in 2015 or 2025. It was never going to sound any different. It was a celebration of all things 70s, really. So I was just happy enough to get it done the way it did. It had a natural energy taking as long as it did. And it didn't take a long time to record. It was just recorded over a long period of time, because I could only grab the guys 2 or 3 days at a time between either me being on tour or them being on tour, you know. So it's got a different energy than most records made. But, you know, history tells you when you look through the books, Rolling Stones had pretty much the same thing going on with Exile on Main Street, recorded over a long period of time in 4 or 5 different studios where not every band member was present at every recording. And it's generally, you know, it's regarded in a lot of areas in a lot of quarters, as the best record they ever made. So sometimes that natural energy that a record has, it just takes over for any negatives that might be there with, like, timing issues, or you can't get all the people, the frustrations of trying to get people together. Some other energy just covers all that up and just lets it flow.
And when you do that, when you go from one session and then maybe you don't have another one for several months later, there could be a new energy and a new vibe going on to bring something else to the project.
Yeah, there is. And there comes a point as well where, you know, certain things happen for a reason, you know. There's no doubt that, I mean, and in fairness, it's happened with Leppard a lot on the Hysteria record because it took so long to record. But you can sit on 2 or 3 songs that you've got in the can, and then 2 or 3 months later, when you start working on songs 4, 5, and 6, if you like, you listen back to the first 3, and you think, my God, we've missed a trick here, and you come up with a part or something that you've missed. That a lot of artists, I'm sure, think the same thing, but by then the song's already in the shops, you know. Because we had that chance to revisit these songs time after time, for the most part, you know, sooner or later you have to shut that down, but, you know, for the most part, we could go back and revisit stuff and keep improving them, you know, which we did a lot, you know. Luckily, the last song that we did on the album was one of those kind of just balls to the wall songs, a song called Boys Don't Cry. It's just straightforward rock and roll. There was really no rethinking needed for that one, so I was happy enough to say, I think we're done, guys, and we had the album in the can then.
You know, that's the one track that really stuck out to me as just a really rocker. And I was making dinner last night, and I had the album on, and, you know, it really put me in a good mood.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, listen, every track I try and write for no matter who I'm working for, whether I'm a guest vocalist on somebody else's record or it's Leppard or the Down and Out, the whole idea is to entertain people. We're not here to educate you. We're not here to try and impress you. We're there to try and just either make you... I mean, yes, sometimes there's a song that you'll go, wow, that's deep. But for the most time, you just want people to rock out and have fun, you know. I mean, there's a couple of tracks on the Down and Outs album, specifically Last Man Standing, that's definitely not that kind of song, which shows a totally different side of my writing, if you like, and Goodnight Mr. Jones, which is a tribute to Bowie, which again, it's tinged with a certain amount of sadness, but at the same time, it's more about celebrating him and saying thanks for everything that he did, because, you know, without Bowie, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. That's not a musical thing, because, you know, I'd imagine a lot of people who are Bowie fans would say, I don't see the correlation between you and Bowie, but I was such a fan of what he did. I just wanted to be in a band, because of people like Bowie and Mark Bolan and Mott the Hoople and stuff like that. They were all connected together, and it was our thing in the UK. That was what we were all listening to, and they were the bands that really kind of instilled in me that I think this is what I want to do. So I really wanted to pay tribute to him in a very heartfelt way.
And you don't have to sound exactly like your idols to have their influence on you.
I know. I mean, I think it's silly. If you sound exactly like your idols, then all you are is a clone. You know, I mean, I think that anybody that's got anything in them, when I see somebody like Prince, you know, old interviews with Prince when he was alive, obviously, talking about everything from Miles Davis to Jimi Hendrix, you can go, yeah, I get the Hendrix thing, but I'm a bit surprised by say, Miles Davis, but that's cool. And, you know, people say to me, you know, what do you listen to? I say, well, actually, probably nothing that you expect me to listen to. A lot of people think that all we do because of the music we make is listening to stuff that sounds similar to what we make, and it couldn't be further from the truth. You know, half the time, if we're sitting around in a dressing room listening to music, it's got nothing to do with Def Leppard. You know, we might be listening to Peter Gabriel or Kate Bush, you know, or some old R&B stuff, you know, just alternatives, you know, and the whole thing with the Down and Outs is that the influences that have come out on this album, because I wrote all the songs except for the Tubes track, are all the songs that I probably wouldn't have written had I been asked to sit down and write these songs with Leppard, because they come from a different place, you know. With Def Leppard, we campfire on guitars and we're writing songs. And with the Down and Outs album, I just sat at a piano, which is not something that we do in Def Leppard. So these come from a totally different place. They don't overlap. There's no conflict of interest. And it also hits home the point that why be in two bands that sound identical? What would be the point? You know, they need to be, you know, quite different for it to be a valid project.
I'm talking to Joe Elliott. His new project, Down and Outs, has an album out, This Is How We Roll. Now, the past albums, they were covers, but this album, mostly originals. What made you decide this was the time to start doing originals with the band?
Well, you know, you've done two albums, right? The first one we did because we were opening for Mott as a live performance, which is what all this band was ever supposed to be. Was never supposed to record. You know, we were opening for Mott the Hoople in 2009 as special guests. I was. I was very kindly lent the Choir Boys to be my band, and I wanted to pick some songs that I thought would complement opening for Mott the Hoople. So what I did is I raided the back catalogue of everything that they did after they split up. So there was songs by the band Mott, which was basically the band without Ian Hunter. They just abbreviated the name. That band then morphed into a group called the British Lions. And then, of course, there was Ian Hunter's solo stuff. So that's what the first album was based around. The second album happened because we had some radio success with the first album. You know, Overnight Angels did really well at American radio, as did England Rocks. So then all of a sudden we're thinking, okay, we've got another band here and it needs another album. And so we raided the Mott back catalogue for the second album. But with the third one, that well's dry. You know, it's like we didn't want to do that again. We very briefly, over a few pints, thought maybe we'd just cover different bands. You know, other bands that influenced us as kids, like 10cc, ELO, Wings, all that kind of Elton John, you know. The only survivor of that conversation was White Punks on Dope by the Tubes. That was kind of the first song we decided to do. But after that, I said, let's write the album, you know. But the way that the bands are, with everybody being so busy, when I, you know, said, let's write an album, I started writing, but nobody else had the time to write for two different bands. You know, the Choir Boys and the Down and Outs are kind of similar, so there may have been a conflict of interest if they'd have been bringing songs to Down and Outs that could have been Choir Boys songs. But there was no danger of that happening with me, because I was going to sit at a piano and write these songs. And once I got going, they just kept falling out of me. They'd been backed up for decades in my head, you know, and I was just getting them all out. And when the guys and the girl in the band, Cher, heard these tracks, they were like, dude, this is great. You know, we don't need to, we're happy to perform your songs. So once I got that kind of vote of confidence from everybody, I just carried on blasting through these things and making demos and then bringing them in, you know, a few days at a time here and there, because, like I said, when I was free, sometimes they'd be touring, When they were free, I'd be touring. So I had to grab them in, this was recorded over, 5-year period, but it probably only took about 3 months to record because we were so fragmented.
Right.
Yeah, day jobs,
Those darn day jobs, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you sit down and write specifically for projects like this, or do you write all the time?
I write all the time, and sometimes you just write something that you think, well, it's not really appropriate for this. If I came up with a song that, I don't know, sounded like Photograph, I wouldn't give it to the Down and Outs. And at the same time, I don't think Goodnight Mr. Jones or Last Man Standing would necessarily have worked as a Def Leppard song. So it's, it all depends what mood you're in. And it also, the environment that you're in. If I'm in a room with Sav and Vivian and Phil, I'm going to just have a different headspace than if I'm just sat at a piano thinking about the guys and the girl in Down and Out, So they were kind of tailored, I suppose. I hate saying that they were tailored because it sounds like they were contrived, but they weren't. They were just natural. What you've got is when I sit down in a writing environment with Def Leppard, whatever contribution I make to those songs, we're a cooperative, and sometimes you have to bend a little bit more than you would if you were just an individual. When I came to write in for the Down and Outs, there was no compromise to be made. There was no cooperative society to get the songs through. It was just me and myself and I, if you like. So it's a totally different space. I've never really done that much. Everybody in Leopard has written songs on their own, but we're also known for sitting down and writing some killer tracks as a team. And that's the way that we normally work. But sometimes if one of us comes in with a finished tune and everybody's happy with it, we just leave it as it is. That's how the whole Down and Outs project rolled.
I'm talking to Joe Elliott from the Down and Outs. Now, when you're writing, what part do you enjoy more? The writing and producing the song, or taking that final product and performing it in front of the fans?
It's a great question, because it's a two-headed monster, that one. With Leopard, we play songs that we've written 20, 30, 35 years ago in front of big crowds, and they never get old. I don't suffer from any kind of artist fatigue or whatever you call it of, oh, God, no, not that song again. Those songs have their own life in front of, as we will be doing this summer, stadium audiences all over the U.S., With the Down and Outs, it's a slightly different thing. Whenever we've played live, it's either been in a club, 400, 500, 600-seater club, or as an opening act for the great Paul Rodgers in arenas around the UK, where it's people who it's a curiosity project to them. So you're back down to your first day in the band where you're trying to impress. They don't know the material. You're putting on this show, but you've got all this experience that you had in Leopard, and you're bringing it to the stage in a different band. It's a bit of a head trip, to be quite honest, but it's always fun as long as you get through the songs without messing them up, So and when it comes to Leopard, playing them live has always been a joy because the songs have already proven what they're going to be. And, people come to celebrate these songs the same way that I go and celebrate Brown Sugar or Gimme Shelter if I go and see the Stones, or, Live and Let Die and Let It Be if it's McCartney. It's the same kind of thing. I haven't played any of the new songs off this Down and Outs album live because we haven't had an opportunity, We sat down with a calendar and said, right, who's available? And I put red crosses through every day, every month for the next 9 months because I'm not free, they're not free, and for the few days that we were free, you wouldn't be able to get a tour together. So we're just biding our time. This music is timeless, so it doesn't really matter when we play live. And if some opportunity comes to play a few shows towards the end of next year after Leopard have finished this big tour with Motley and Poison and Joan Jett, then I will do some shows. But, until that opportunity comes along, I'm just proud of a very well-made record and very proud of my guys that helped me make it. And I'm proud of the songwriting, but I love the way that the album sounds. The Paul Gearin's guitar solos are superb. The piano playing by Keith is amazing. Phil's drumming and Scher's bass playing is as tight as you could ever want. There's nothing about the record I don't like. So that, for me, as an artistic kind of statement, if you like, is very satisfying so far. If live comes, it'll just get better.
Yeah, I would definitely look forward to seeing the Down and Outs live sometime in the States when you get a moment. But that full-time gig keeps you pretty busy, Def Leppard, and you kind of mentioned it, the stadium tour with Motley Crue, Poison, and Joan Jett. This is going to be a summer party, isn't it?
It certainly is. We're bringing, a roller coaster, fun fair circus to town, if you like. We're basically taking a festival to 29 stadiums around the U.S., and it's testament to every band, to that genre of music and the excitement of all playing together on the same day, that half these stadiums sold out before Christmas.
And they're breaking records.
The first one till late June, you know what I mean? It's incredible, really.
And I know in Milwaukee at Miller Park, you broke a record for how fast it sold out.
Yeah, it's not the only one. It's quite mind blowing. I mean, even at this, you could think that people like us are long in the tooth, and nothing surprises us or shocks us anymore. But we were all genuinely just gobsmacked. We're talking jaw dropping wowness at just how popular this is. We knew it would be popular, but just the fact that it's just shot out the cannon the way it has is quite insane, really.
Are you
feeling? I've got to be honest.
Are you surprised at all about how it just every year just keeps growing and growing, the world of Def Leppard?
Well, surprised, I suppose. We like to keep everything humble and ground level. We don't take anything for granted. But if there's a reason why, other than the fact that people, kind of gravitate towards these songs because they're part of their youth, or they just happen to like us more than some other bands, we have put an astonishing amount of work into getting where we are. When the 90s came along, which was supposed to kill the likes of us, we didn't roll over and die like a lot of bands did. And we fought through that sticky patch that was like the 90s. It was very turbulent, but something about turbulence is if you're in a jet, sooner or later it clears, and then you're into the old blue sky again, and we had to work really, really hard to get back to where we are. And in fairness, it's arguable that we've actually gone beyond where we were. I think quite possibly from a live perspective, we are bigger now than we were when Hysteria was top of the charts. I think I'd be lying to you and the listeners if I was to say that I think we're ever going to re-achieve record sales the way we did, because other than a handful of artists like Ed Sheeran and Adele and Taylor Swift, Katy Perry maybe, there's really nobody selling records anymore. So that's just the way that the business has gone. But live has gone through the roof. And that's why we all got to want to be in bands. You have to remember, nobody as a 17, 16, and 15-year-old kid ever met another kid on the corner of the street, whether it be me and Pete Willis back in the day, or Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, or John Lennon and Paul McCartney. They never looked at each other and said, "Hey, man, let's form a band. Can't wait to spend 3 years in the studio." Nobody ever said that. They wanted to play in front of people. And so the fact that it's gone that way suits us to the ground, because studio is tedious. Studio is something you have to do to create. And it's hard and it's difficult, but to celebrate the music that you've made and play live in front of people and play songs that are accepted and loved, and we love them too, don't we? It's never a chore for us. But to be playing those in front of increasingly big audiences year after year after year is a testament to the hard work that we put in to get there. It doesn't happen to every band, so we are aware of the fact that we are blessed in that department, and we never take it for granted.
I'm talking to Joe Elliott from Def Leppard. Obviously, the stadium tour will keep you busy pretty much all of 2020, but does the band have anything else going on?
We have all sorts of stuff going on. Def Leppard, when we're not visible, we're like a room with the curtains drawn. There's a lot of activity going off behind those curtains, but you just can't see us. So we're writing new music. We're about to drop some classic old stuff that's not been seen before. We're putting a lot of video together for this. We've got a run of video releases coming out this year. We're titling 2020 Vision for obvious reasons. And it's like, it's our history. We've got stuff that's relatively new, like the Vegas residency that we did towards the end of last year, and the Hysteria tour that we did around the UK is coming out as a double DVD Blu-ray disc soon as well. So there's a lot of stuff that we're working on, old and new. So it's constant. We're not 7 days a week, nailed down in a room doing it, because everybody lives all over the world. But we've got an energy where it works. We can just do little bits at a time, and we still get a lot of stuff done in short bursts. But the main focus right now is these shows, because they're very, very important.
And you're coming to Miller Park in Milwaukee, August 18th, Wrigley Field in Chicago, August 28th. Joe, thank you so much for taking the time. It's always great talking to you. The Down and Outz album, This Is How We Roll, it's out now. Check it out. Joe, it sounds great.
Thanks, Double T. Appreciate that.
It's Rockford's home for classic rock, 96.7 The Eagle.